8 hours of sleep in order to have a productive day.
Today's episode is brought to you by the proposition P. What the fuck is the meaning of my life, bro?
Hey, that's not a proposition, that's a question. Fuck.
Need 8 hours of sleep in order to have 8 hours a day. Need 8 hours of...
Wait, I don't work at an office.
So what do you do?
I'm a freelancer.
Oh, so you're basically a bum?
What is the meaning of my life?
Why would you ask such a loaded question? It's because he just got a reality check from a barista, but you work too.
Yeah, but it's not like I work full-time. And my taxes, oh my fucking god.
You just have to fill out your info and look at the tax table, it's not that hard.
But the amount withheld, do I owe money or am I getting a refund? I can't figure it out.
You just subtract.
Yeah, I know, but do I subtract cell 24 from cell 34 or cell 34 from cell 24? Because one number is bigger than the other, and if I enter it as a positive when it's negative or negative if it's positive, then I'm screwed.
You're a freelancer, why would you expect a return?
Oh my god.
What?
Oh my god.
What?
If I get married this year, I can double my deductions.
Bro,
Think of all the benefits of getting married, though.
you're really considering getting married this year for tax benefits?
But I'm so lonely.
Okay, do you think that maybe, just maybe, the reason why you're asking these big philosophical questions isn't because you have some sort of intellectual need for answers, but because you just want an answer that could make you feel better?
No, that's stupid. Even if I had everything I wanted, I would still need answers. I'm a naturally curious person. It just wouldn't happen.
Okay, but you're talking metaphysics here.
Yeah? And?
There are many proposed answers for the questions of philosophy, all of which, in their own sense, are correct.
But some of these answers are not true. And so by negation, there must be some answers that are true. Do you see what I'm saying? What you just said is false. There are some or one answer to life. Like, let's say there's a unicorn in the room. That statement is false. And if I negate it, then the sentence becomes, there are no unicorns in the room. That statement is true. In philosophy, there are right and wrong answers. There's no possible way for all philosophical answers to be, in their own sense, correct. That would just be nonsense.
But what if I took the statement, there are unicorns in this room, and turned it into an implication, an if-then statement? If there is a unicorn in the room, then the unicorn is an alcoholic.
But that implication is false. Both of those statements are not true. Come on, it's just that's just common sense. There's no such thing as a unicorn. There's no such thing as an alcoholic unicorn. It's ridiculous to think of a unicorn as an alcoholic.
But it's not.
What?
According to propositional logic, this implication is true.
No. Wait, I don't understand. How can such a nonsensical sentence be correct?
Many philosophers have the same concern you do. In mathematical terms, this is correct. According to propositional logic, discrete mathematics, and pure maths, this statement is true. But then, if the unicorn can be an alcoholic, then what exactly is the structure of reality? How can we ever claim to know the truth behind reality if an alcoholic unicorn exists as a part of that truth?
When you say something like that, it almost feels like philosophy is just based on contradiction.
No. Contradiction would be something like, it is morning and it is not morning. It is impossible for it to be morning and not morning simultaneously, therefore it is a contradiction. There are other interesting paradoxes as well, such as the tautology. It is morning or it is not morning. A statement like that is always true, because it is the case that it is morning, and if it is not morning, then it is not morning. Then there's the case of the unicorn. We call that a non-existent item. Basically, it's an object that can never exist within reality, but we still use it for the purposes of philosophy. And what's interesting about these objects is our ability to imagine them. I can imagine a unicorn just fine. In my mind, I see a horse with a horn. I can also imagine a tautology in my mind. The sun is rising and it is morning, or the sun is setting and it is not morning. But I cannot imagine a contradiction. I cannot imagine it being both morning and not morning, the sun rising and not rising. All three of these concepts are widely used in philosophy, yet we have very little understanding of them because they're all paradoxical.
So what use do any of these things even have in philosophy?
That's the point, they're quite useless. A tautology teaches you nothing, since yes, it's always true that regardless of the hour or day or month or year, it is always either morning or not morning. Nothing is gained from knowing that statement. The same goes for non-existent items. What use is a unicorn if there are no unicorns in reality? And as for contradictions, all they do is baffle and confuse us. I'd argue that these are all just accidental features of philosophy, sort of like an appendix. Everything surrounding the appendix, the stomach, the liver, the kidneys and entrails, those are all useful. But the appendix is useless. It does nothing, and studying it teaches us nothing of value. But sometimes you need useless things. Knowing what is useless highlights what is useful. If an appendix does nothing and a stomach does something, then that must indicate that the stomach has some use. That is some of the value of utilizing these concepts. They sometimes help us navigate our way around what is nonsense and what makes sense. If I know that my arguments are approaching a contradiction, then I know to stop arguing. If my arguments are built entirely out of tautologies, then I know that my argument was all nonsense. But even so, it's still a futile endeavor to make philosophical arguments.
What?
The entirety of philosophy is basically an appendix. It all stems from an appendix.
I don't understand.
The appendix is just an analogy. In reality, I'm talking about tautologies. Everything we say about philosophy is true. Why else would we have so many different philosophical answers to life? And what's even worse is that all of these answers are based on logic. And we like to think that some logic is worse than others, but how can we say that if we're utilizing a system of logic that allows for the existence of contradictions and non-existent items? How can I say that logic is logical if logic says it's okay to theorize about unicorns and contradictory sunsets?
Okay, but something like quantum computing, where you're utilizing both a 1 and 0 simultaneously, it's contradictory. You can't have both 1 and 0. It has to be 1 or 0. Somehow you have both in this superimposed state. But even if it's contradictory, we don't start doubting the existence of quantum computers just because I can't imagine something being both a 1 and a 0. The same goes for infinity. Just because I can't imagine infinity doesn't mean that I'm going to start doubting calculus and limits. We know what we know because the world shows us at least some truths. When I know the concept of infinity, the world confirms this concept with a black hole.
Yes, the world shows us that the natural sciences are factual, and sometimes the world shows us what is mystical. It shows us the higher things through miracles and gods. But if I cannot even comprehend these miracles and gods, then what's even the point of studying them? No matter what, I'll never have a system of language nor logic that can quantify these things.
Why not? Propositional logic was used to help create computers. Propositional logic was and is used in science. If I can do that, then I can use that same system of logic to create a description of miracles. Through that description, I can scientifically and methodically understand them.
But at least a quantum computer and an infinite black hole are logically impossible. I can say that it is impossible to have both 1 and 0 because 1 or 0 has to occur. I can say that infinity is impossible because everything in the universe is finite. But I cannot attribute possibility and impossibility to miracles or gods or even my own soul. It is logical to say that infinity is impossible, but it is illogical to say anything about my own soul. I don't even know where to begin with. When it comes to talking about my own soul, I can't see my soul, I can't imagine my soul, I can't measure my soul. The world provides me with no hints about the existence or absence of my soul. To attribute logic to it would be nonsense. At least logic tells me that a black hole is impossible, but what can logic even say about God? Why else do you think every argument we have made about the human soul sounds right? It's because it is right. A philosophical proposition is a tautology. They all are. No matter what you say, so long as it is philosophical, it is always right. But that also means that teaches you nothing. Just because I know it's morning or not morning doesn't mean I know what Buddha and Jesus are up to. Remember what I said about non-existent items? That when you make an implication about something outside of reality, it is always bound to be true? Reality is made up of facts. The world is made up of facts. Souls, aesthetics, beauty, love, and unicorns. These are all things outside of facts. They are not factual, and so everything I have to say about them, every implication I make about them, they're bound to be logically true, but factually nonsensical, because these things don't even exist within the realm of logic. If a unicorn can be an alcoholic, then I may as well say that my soul can be a stick of butter.
So, it's all nonsense.
Philosophically speaking, yes, these things may exist, but we'll never understand them.
So then, what's the point of any of this if I can't even understand why we're here?
Did you need a philosophical answer to shower this morning?
No, but if there's no logical answer to why we're here, then everything we've done, it's culminated towards nothing, so what's even the point?
What if there was an answer, but it required you to be unhappy? Would you still accept it? What if the answer to life was to just stick your hand in a shark's mouth? Answers aren't solutions. I think it's silly that you've been looking for an answer, but only for an answer that would make you feel better. This entire time you haven't been looking for philosophy, you've been looking for a religion. In fact, you have multiple religions. You think that money will solve all your problems. You think that knowing metaphysics will solve all your problems. You think that knowing how to do taxes will ensure your safety. At what point do you set aside your religion and start making decisions on your own? For fuck's sake, you just do what you normally do without even intellectualizing it. Even if some new Einstein were to come along and discover the gravitron, do you think it would honestly have any effect on your life whatsoever? Maybe you'll get some fancy new toaster that uses theoretical science, but other than that, you still have to eat, sleep, hunt, and shit.
I just don't understand. I don't understand. What am I supposed to do now?